There's been a lot of talk about North lately due to their, less than ideal form over the last few years. However, when it comes to struggling clubs, they're usually one of the first mentioned, as even though they're in a relatively financial stable situation at the moment, they are still the smallest club in Melbourne in terms of supporters and significance. The suburb of North Melbourne is only small and sandwiched by Carlton, Essendon and Footscray, also the Western Bulldogs, making it hard to establish their own territory within Melbourne. They resemble similar past clubs such as South Melbourne and Fitzroy, who went on to become successful clubs outside of Melbourne in the bigger markets of Sydney and Brisbane. As Melbourne still has 9 teams, which by many standards is too many, North should consider moving north to another city, one that has wanted an AFL team in the past, but also has many non-AFL fans for there to be a big potential in converting brand new fans and therefore more dollars. That city is Canberra. Canberra is the second largest city in Australia without an AFL team, behind Newcastle, and seems to often be forgotten about when it comes to AFL expansion, despite it being the national capital. Most other sporting leagues around the world have a team in the nation's capital, and for a sport like Australian football, being the pride of the country, it should contain a team there. With a population of over 400,000, plus the surrounding Riverina region, Canberra has an untapped potential for a struggling team such as North Melbourne to break into a brand new market that they can call their own without neighbouring competition. And before someone tries to claim that Canberra already has the Giants as their team, that's like saying Hawthorn is Tassie's team because they play in Launceston, or the Suns are Darwin's team, which I didn't even realise that Darwin was Gold Coast's second home ground. I thought the Bulldogs or someone played games there, which shows the little presence they've had in being in that area. The Giants should stick solely to Western Sydney to try and solidify support rather than trying to represent a whole region, often making it feel like you represent no one. And there have been other teams to play home games in Canberra, including North Melbourne, who, during the time they played there from 2002 to 2006, simply just referred to themselves as the Kangaroos, before being offered a better deal to play games in the Gold Coast, before then choosing to stay put in Melbourne, then later playing some home games in Hobart because they realised they'd struggle to draw large crowds for every home game they play in Melbourne. That's why they should really consider moving back to Canberra, but making it a full-time presence, thereby expanding the league across the country and helping even out the distribution of teams. Now, I know this is controversial and most North fans and some people in Canberra wouldn't want this, especially since North have been playing and training at Arden Street Oval since their founding and have a strong base there, unlike other clubs who have moved training facilities and home grounds. However, sometimes there needs to be a hard decision made for the league and not for individual clubs, as in the long term this would be better for both parties. Their south counterparts in South Melbourne didn't want to move to Sydney and were only forced to out of financial pressure, and even in their first 15 years struggled to convert the rugby fans in Sydney over to footy. However, can you imagine if they stayed there, how much different things would be? They wouldn't be the successful team they are today if they had stayed in the small suburb in Melbourne. Since the league is likely to expand to 20 teams in the future after Tassie joins, this will likely be the cap for a long time, as some say that 20 will be too many teams. As there has been no clear frontrunner for the 20th licence, Canberra is likely one of the 3 behind a third WA team and possibly in the southwest of the state, or an NT or Northern Australia team. Rather than bring in a new team in Canberra, they are better off relocating a struggling Victorian team, as out of the 3, Canberra is better placed for a relocated side rather than a standalone side. As both WA and the NT are places where AFL is the number 1 sport, a relocated side will struggle as locals will want a team with a local identity rather than a relocated side. That's why a relocated side would not have worked for Tassie, as fans would want their own side and with a Tasmanian identity. As fans already support AFL teams, and the only way to get them to support someone new would be to create a new team, not relocate a team that most already likely didn't support. Since AFL is less popular in Canberra, locals won't be as fazed to whether a new team there is brand new or relocated, similar to Sydney and Brisbane when the Swans and Lions came. Also, the name Canberra Kangaroos just sounds like a good fit, considering the kangaroo is the national animal of the country and Canberra is the capital. So out of all teams in Melbourne, their name fits the best for the nation's capital. The colours also work well compared to other Victorian sides. Realistically though, there is a very small chance this could actually happen, as the AFL likely will do everything they can to prevent a side from relocating. However, if North continue to struggle, it should be looked at as relocation is much better than a merger, which they should never do again. A relocation of North helps reduce the teams in Melbourne, and realistically this is the only way the AFL can reduce their so-called Vic bias. It also would bring the true representation of a team in Canberra, and if they don't give Canberra a team within the next 15 years, it risks falling under the control of the NRL, and if the AFL are serious about winning the battle against rugby, they should consider bringing a team to the ACT, which allows them to free up the 20th licence for another location. So let me know what you think in the comments. Should the North Melbourne Kangaroos become the Canberra Kangaroos? Well, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.